As the clock strikes midnight and the world celebrates the arrival of 2025, ask yourself one question. How do you know what year it really is? You look at your phone, you look at the calendar, and you trust the number. But that number is not a fact of nature like gravity or the speed of light. It is a human construct decided by a handful of men. What if I told you that the year is not 2025? What if a massive chunk of our history was completely fabricated? There is a theory known as the phantom time hypothesis, proposed by the German historian Heribert Illig. It suggests that the years between 614 AD and 911 AD never happened. They were inserted into the calendar by a conspiracy of the Holy Roman Emperor, the Pope, and the Byzantine Emperor. If this theory is true, we are not living in the 21st century. We are living in the year 1728. Today we are going to investigate the greatest theft in history, the theft of 300 years of time. We will look at the mathematical errors in the Gregorian calendar that expose the lie. We will dig into the archaeological void of the Dark Ages, where civilizations seem to have vanished into thin air. And we will ask, was Charlemagne, the father of Europe, a real king, or was he a fictional character invented to fill the gap? To understand the lie, we must go back to the year 1582, when Pope Gregory XIII introduced the calendar we use today. The old Julian calendar established by Julius Caesar was flawed. It was drifting out of sync with the seasons. Easter was drifting towards the summer, and the Pope needed to correct it to save the timeline of the Church. His astronomers calculated that the Julian calendar was losing 11 minutes every year. Over the course of history since the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, this drift should have accumulated to 13 days. So to fix the calendar, the Pope should have skipped 13 days. But he didn't. Pope Gregory ordered the world to skip only 10 days. Why the discrepancy? Why were 3 days missing from the mathematical correction? 3 days of drift corresponds to exactly 300 years of time. This implies that the 300 years between the Council of Nicaea and the Reform of 1582 did not exist. The Pope's astronomers knew the math didn't add up, but they stayed silent. They corrected the calendar for the time that had actually passed, not the time that was written in the history books. But who would fake 3 centuries? And more importantly, why would they do it? The theory points to 3 powerful men: the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Constantine VII. Otto III was obsessed with the idea of the Millennium. He wanted to be the emperor who ruled in the year 1000 AD. It was a mystical number, the start of Christ's kingdom on earth. But there was a problem. Otto lived in the 700s. He was born too early to fulfill the prophecy. So with the help of the Pope, who was known as a magician and a scholar of the occult, they decided to change the date. They rewrote the calendar. They skipped from the year 700 directly to the year 1000. But you can't just change the date. You have to fill the empty space with history or the people will notice. So they invented the Dark Ages. They created a period of 300 years where almost nothing happened. Look at the history books for the early Middle Ages. It is a time of silence. Science stopped. Architecture stopped. Literature stopped. Historians tell us it was because Rome fell and barbarians took over. But the phantom time hypothesis says it's because those years were empty. They filled this void with fictional kings, made up battles, and forged documents. The monks in the scriptoriums of the Middle Ages were the ultimate propaganda machine. They wrote chronicles of events that never occurred, copying styles from earlier centuries to make them look authentic. But the biggest fabrication of all was the figure of Charlemagne. Charlemagne is the hero of the Middle Ages. He conquered Europe, spread Christianity, and restored the Roman Empire. But his life reads like a myth. His achievements are superhuman. He supposedly fought wars in Spain, Germany, and Italy, traveling thousands of miles on horseback in impossible times. Archaeologists have struggled for centuries to find physical evidence of Charlemagne's massive empire. They find his palaces in the texts, but when they dig in the ground, they find nothing. The architecture attributed to Charlemagne often looks suspiciously Roman, or it dates to centuries later. Is it possible that Charlemagne is a composite character? A King Arthur figure invented to give the German emperors a glorious ancestor? If you remove Charlemagne from the timeline, the history of Europe snaps together perfectly. The Roman Empire collapses, and the Romanesque period begins immediately after. The gap disappears. Let's look at the archaeology. This is where the theory moves from conspiracy to science. In archaeology, time is measured in layers of dirt. Each century leaves a stratum of pottery, coins, and foundations. But all over Europe, researchers encounter a strange phenomenon known as the sterile layer. Between the fall of Rome and the High Middle Ages, there is often no layer. You find Roman artifacts, and directly on top of them you find artifacts from the 10th century. Where is the dirt from the 7th, 8th, and 9th centuries? Did the people stop building? Did they stop breaking pots? Did the dust stop falling for 300 years? Or is the layer missing because the time never happened? Look at the evolution of architecture. We are told that Roman architecture died out, and then, 300 years later, Romanesque architecture appeared. It looks exactly the same. The arches are the same. The stone cutting is the same. It is highly unlikely that a style would disappear for 3 centuries and then reappear exactly as it was, without evolution. It makes more sense that the Romanesque period immediately followed the Roman period. The connection is continuous, the break is artificial. This theory also explains the Islam gap. We are told that Islam rose in the 7th century and conquered the Middle East and Spain with lightning speed. But if you remove the phantom time, the rise of Islam aligns much closer to the timeline of the Persians. The rapid expansion of the Arab Caliphate makes more military sense if they were filling the power vacuum left immediately by Rome. The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem has architecture that is strikingly Byzantine. If it was built centuries later, why does it look like a church from the time of Justinian? But the most damning evidence comes from the stars. Ancient astronomers recorded solar eclipses and the movement of comets with great precision. When modern astronomers try to calculate these eclipses backward using the official timeline, they often encounter errors. The eclipses don't happen where they are supposed to, but if you subtract 300 years from the timeline, the calculations align perfectly with the ancient reports. Halley's comet passes Earth every 76 years. But in the records of the Dark Ages, there are gaps in the sightings of the comet. Why did the sky go dark? Or were there simply no astronomers to see it because those years didn't exist? The implications of this theory are existential. It means our entire understanding of where we are in history is a lie. We celebrate the year 2025 because we trust the authority of the calendar. But the calendar is a matrix. It is a grid placed over reality to control us. If the Vatican could fake 300 years of history, what else have they faked? We discussed the Codex Gigas and the Vatican archives in previous videos. We know they have the power to suppress the truth, but rewriting time itself is the ultimate power move. It is the act of a god. Why does this matter today? Because cycles repeat. If we are actually in the year 1728, then our predictions for the future are wrong. The end times prophecies, the astrological ages, the climate cycles, everything is off by 3 centuries. We might be closer to the catastrophe than we think, or we might have more time. The Adam and Eve story predicted a pole shift every 6,000 years. If our calendar is wrong, we cannot calculate the arrival of the next shift. We are flying blind through time, trusting a map drawn by a mad emperor and a sorcerer pope. Think about the psychological effect of the Millennium. The year 1000 was a time of mass hysteria. People thought the world was ending. The year 2000 Y2K was a time of mass hysteria. The elite use these dates to manipulate human consciousness. They harness the energy of our collective belief. If they can make us believe it is a certain year, they can make us believe in a certain destiny. The phantom time hypothesis is not just about the past. It is about the nature of reality. It forces us to question the bedrock of our existence. We assume the timeline is a straight line, unbroken and verified. But history is a story written by the victors, and sometimes the victors need to add a few chapters to make the story look better. Otto III wanted to be Christ's representative on earth. He needed the year 1000, so he bent reality to fit his ego, and we are still living in his fantasy. Every time you write the date, 2025, you are participating in a 1,000-year-old ritual of deception. You are validating a lie that was sealed in the Vatican vaults. Is it possible that other periods were faked? Russian mathematician Anatoly Fomenko argues that ancient history, Greece, Rome, Egypt, is much shorter than we think. He believes the Middle Ages and the ancient world are actually the same events, duplicated by historians to make the timeline longer. This is the new chronology. It suggests we might only have 1,000 years of real history. Everything before that is a mirror reflection, a distortion of medieval events projected into the past. It sounds crazy, but look at the Antikythera mechanism again. It was a computer from ancient Greece. Or was it a computer from the Middle Ages that was misdated? If the timeline is compressed, the out-of-place artifacts suddenly fit. The high technology of the past isn't lost ancient tech. It's relatively modern tech that we pushed back in time. This leads to a terrifying conclusion. We don't know who we are. We don't know how long we have been here. We are floating in a void of phantom time, anchored only by the lies of our rulers. The Dark Ages were dark because they were a blank screen. And the Renaissance wasn't a rebirth, it was just the continuation of reality after the glitch. So as the fireworks go off for the new year, look at the sky. The stars don't care about our calendars. The sun doesn't care about Pope Gregory. Time is a river, but we have built a dam and called it history. The water is rising. The truth is pushing against the wall. What do you think? Are the missing 300 years real? Is Charlemagne a ghost? Or is this just a conspiracy theory gone too far? Do you feel like the world is older or younger than they tell us? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what year you think it really is. We have questioned the timeline. Now we must question the very shape of our reality. In the next video we are going to leave the Earth and look at the moon. But not the moon you see in the sky. We are going to look at the theory that the moon is artificial. Is it a hollow spaceship brought here to monitor humanity? Why does it ring like a bell when hit by asteroids? Why are the craters so shallow? You need to be subscribed, because we are going to find out who parked the moon in our orbit.